Ever wonder what's going on inside a neurosurgeon's mind? Well, get ready to find out.
Today, we're going way beyond Grey's Anatomy. We're talking about real-life breakthroughs and the future of brain and spine surgery.
We're doing a deep dive into a recent episode of the SurgiMind Podcast, a show that's geared towards, well, actual medical professionals.
It's a super in-depth Q&A session with a neurosurgery expert.
And they really don't hold back.
Yeah, they cover a ton of ground. It's really fascinating stuff, even for someone who, isn't a brain surgeon.
Exactly. That's our job today. We're going to break it all down for you. Like, for example, have you heard of minimally invasive neurosurgery?
Oh, yeah. The SurgiMind episode was talking about some wild stuff.
I mean, it sounds crazy, right? Brain surgery, but like minimally invasive.
I know. But they were talking about using these tiny cameras and instruments to get to tumors deep inside the skull.
So instead of this big, scary surgery, it's like they're operating through a peephole.
Basically. They call it endoscopic surgery, and they're doing some amazing things with it.
I bet recovery is way faster.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Smaller incisions, less pain, less scarring, quicker recovery. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
It's incredible.
And it's not just going smaller. They're using these things called tubular retractors now.
Tubular retractors? What are those?
Basically, they create like a protective tunnel to reach the surgical site.
So less damage to the surrounding brain tissue.
Exactly. It's all about minimizing the impact on the brain. Kind of like replacing a sledgehammer with a laser.
That makes sense. Precision is key when it comes to the brain.
Tell me about it.
And speaking of precision, this episode dives into how technology is, like, completely transforming the operating room.
Oh, yeah. Robots, AI. It's pretty mind-blowing.
Okay, so are we talking, like, full-on robot surgeons doing their thing?
Not quite there yet, but they're getting close.
No kidding.
Seriously, they're becoming super valuable partners for surgeons, especially in those really tight spaces in the brain and spine. Robots can provide this incredible level of precision and control.
I can see how that would be helpful.
For example, think about deep brain stimulation, where they implant electrodes to treat things like Parkinson's.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Well, robotics makes that whole process much more precise and less invasive. It's really incredible what they can do.
So the robots are assisting with these super delicate surgeries, but where does AI come into play? Is it really as smart as everyone says it is?
In some ways, AI is even smarter. You know how surgeons rely on those detailed brain scans like MRIs and CT scans?
Sure.
Well, now they have AI algorithms that can analyze those same scans, but with superhuman speed and accuracy.
They can detect things the human eye might miss.
Exactly. Like the tiniest tumor or vascular abnormalities, they can pick those up, sometimes even before they're even visible to a human looking at the scan.
Wow, that could be life-saving. Catching things early can make all the difference.
Totally. And get this, AI isn't just helpful before surgery. They're actually using it during procedures too.
You're kidding. How does that even work?
It's like something out of the future. Right?
Yeah.
So imagine a surgeon is operating and they have this AI assistant, essentially.
An AI assistant. So the AI is like watching over the surgeon's shoulder.
Exactly. It's analyzing data in real time, alerting them to any potential problems, or even suggesting adjustments to the surgical plan based on what it's seeing.
That's wild. It's like having a co-pilot in the operating room.
Totally.
And all this is happening right now.
It's incredible. We're just scratching the surface of how AI and robotics can change neurosurgery.
That's amazing.
And that's not even all the cool tech stuff they talked about. They also got into some really advanced imaging techniques that are changing how surgeons see and navigate the brain. It's really remarkable.
It's just incredible to think about, surgeons in the past having to rely on their, just their training, their experience.
Yeah.
They were basically navigating the brain with, such limited visibility.
Totally.
But the SurgiMind episode, it really opened my eyes to these imaging tools.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like giving surgeons superpowers or something.
It really is like having a superpower, being able to see the brain like that.
Like seeing it in action.
In real time.
It's wild.
And understanding all the different functions.
Yeah.
On such a deeper level than we ever could before.
They were talking about this thing called fMRI.
fMRI.
And to be honest, it's a little intimidating. But from what I understand, it shows which parts of the brain are active.
Right.
Like when you're doing something.
Exactly. So if you're talking or if you move your hand, they can actually see those areas kind of light up.
Yeah.
Showing that activity.
But this isn't just some kind of cool visual, right?
Right.
This is critical stuff for surgeons.
Totally.
I mean, imagine you're operating near an area that controls, speech or movement.
Right.
Like, you need to be so careful.
Critical areas of the brain, you don't want to mess with those.
Exactly. And with fMRI, they can map out a safe route.
Exactly. It's like a roadmap.
It's like a roadmap of the brain.
A roadmap.
Yeah.
But instead of streets, it's showing you the pathways of your thoughts and actions.
That is a perfect way to put it.
And they talked about this other technique called DTI.
DTI, okay.
And that one is like giving surgeons X-ray vision,
Okay.
but for the brain's wiring so they can see the nerve fibers,
Oh, wow.
all those connections.
So it's not just about knowing where things are in the brain. It's like understanding how everything is connected.
It's about understanding how it's all connected and minimizing the risk to those connections.
Wow.
Because if you have damage to those nerve fibers during surgery, you could have things like paralysis or loss of sensation,
Right.
which are things that in the past were much bigger risks with brain surgery.
It's incredible how delicate these procedures are.
Yeah.
But this next one takes the cake.
Okay, what's that?
Intraoperative MRI.
Ah, yeah.
I mean, that just sounds like straight out of Star Trek.
It kind of does, doesn't it? That's pretty incredible, though.
What is it?
So they wheel in an MRI machine right into the operating room, and it gives them real-time feedback during the surgery.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So they're not just using those pre-surgery images.
They're getting information as they're doing the surgery.
They can see what's happening as they operate.
Exactly.
That's insane.
So, for example, let's say they're taking out a tumor.
Okay.
With intraoperative MRI, they can be sure that they've gotten every last bit of it,
Oh, wow.
so it's less likely to grow back.
Okay.
Or if they're putting in a deep brain stimulation implant, they can make sure that it's in exactly the right spot.
It's like having a live GPS, but for your brain.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. But even with all these incredible advancements, I imagine there's still some big challenges in neurosurgery.
Absolutely. And this SurgiMind episode definitely talked about some of the challenges.
What were they talking about?
Well, for one thing, they brought up glioblastoma.
Glioblastoma.
It's a type of brain tumor.
I've heard of that. It sounds scary.
It's very serious. And it's really challenging to treat because it grows so fast.
Oh.
And it tends to spread into the surrounding brain tissue.
So even with these incredible tools,
Right.
it's still a really tough battle.
Yeah, it can be.
Wow.
But, this episode really highlighted how much resilience and ingenuity there is in the field of neurosurgery.
Yeah.
They were talking about new research and new treatments they're working on for glioblastoma and for spinal cord injuries, too,
Okay.
which is another incredibly complex area.
So while there's still a lot of hurdles,
For sure.
it seems like there's a lot of hope, too.
Oh, yeah. A lot of hope on the horizon for these really difficult conditions.
Wow. And speaking of hope on the horizon, this SurgiMind episode took a very interesting turn.
What do you mean?
Well, they started talking about the future of neurosurgery.
Okay.
And some of this stuff sounds like it's straight out of a movie, honestly.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
They were talking about things like augmented reality and virtual reality in the operating room.
Yeah,
Like, is that even real?
it is. And it's
Yeah.
getting pretty close.
So are surgeons going to be wearing those, like, VR headsets you see gamers wearing?
Haha, kinda. So imagine surgeons in training using VR to practice surgeries
Oh, that's cool.
in a completely virtual environment.
That makes a lot of sense.
They can try different things, test out approaches without any risk to a real patient.
Wow.
It's like a high-tech flight simulator for brain surgery.
That is so cool. Practice makes perfect. Yeah.
Exactly. And it gets even more amazing.
What? Even more amazing than VR.
They talked about augmented reality during actual surgeries.
Okay, now that sounds like it's straight out of a movie.
Right. So picture this, the surgeon's operating,
Okay.
and they've got these glasses on,
Okay.
and the glasses are showing them critical information,
Like what?
like where the vital nerves and blood vessels are,
Oh, wow.
right in their field of vision as they're operating.
It's like X-ray vision.
Exactly. A high-tech GPS for the brain.
That is just mind-blowing.
It's incredible.
So we've got VR for training and then AR, like during the surgery,
Yeah.
to help guide them.
It's pretty amazing.
And then on top of all that, they were talking about stem cell therapy.
Oh, yeah.
I've always thought of stem cells as, like, science fiction.
It does sound pretty futuristic.
Like, how could that even work in the brain?
Well, it's still early,
Okay.
but it has incredible potential.
Okay.
So stem cells, they can actually turn into different types of cells,
And I knew that.
including brain cells.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And they're researching ways to use those cells to actually regenerate.
So you could, like, repair damage?
Potentially,
Oh.
they could repair damaged brain tissue or even spinal cord tissue,
Oh my gosh.
which could be revolutionary for things like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, spinal cord injuries, all kinds of things.
It's like we're talking about actually healing the brain.
It's incredible, isn't it?
This whole deep dive into the SurgiMind podcast has been amazing.
I know, right?
We went from these tiny little incisions to AI,
Yeah.
robots, stem cells. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It really makes you realize how fast things are changing in neurosurgery.
And all the incredible breakthroughs that are probably just around the corner.
Definitely.
Well, if you're as blown away by all this as we are, we definitely recommend you check out the full SurgiMind podcast episode.
Yeah, it was really fascinating.
They go into even more detail about everything we've talked about today.
It's definitely worth a listen.
But for now, thanks for using your brain with us and joining us for this deep dive.
See you.
We'll catch you next time.